So I might do a mini meditation, so I could rebalance respectively and appreciating the influence, seeing the paradox of the speed of things and the slowing down of things. Once we recognize that paradox, we could diminish the effects of negative time. Negative time is where the mind has been polluted and it's affiliating with time in a negative way. And once you're in time within a negative way, you're intermeshing yourself with your own subjective suffering. Because suffering is, it's a choice, right? It's a choice based on your spiritual will. And I never know if this live comes from the beginning of it, but suffering is really, it's really a choice. It's a series of choices. It's a series of choices, and within those series of choices, maybe in the past or in some future, we chose suffering in a unique context, and that suffering is still floating and circulating in our aura. And now we're still working through that suffering, and as we're working through that suffering, it's up to us to keep choosing to heal and have the solution for it in the unique context of the moment or not, right? Because there's suffering here, right? We want to say we're the best at this fucking shit, yet we can't even heal our own fucking suffering and the world suffering. So you're not the best at it. Whoever's claiming you're the best at it, you're not the best. You're shy from the challenge of you being the real best because people are threatened by, and this is just a raw talk. People are threatened by some type of like, just by like some type of superiority thing, right? And it's just raw with it, right? Because obviously, if like they get, if someone else puts someone else on game without without them really wanting to, and they pretty much, in one sense, they really more or less, they might choose not to, or they might choose to do so. It's just based on their own intelligence and how their intelligence will lead them to some type of particular progression, right? So within that particular type of progression, the intelligence is shy away from how one could progress in today's time, right? Because obviously, like, it's just a raw talk, right? It's a raw talk. So like what we're doing here is we're actually spearheading the message of solutions and truth, right? Meaning we're showing up here and we're diminishing to our best of ability subjective human suffering, subjective human time, subjective human ego, and subjective human competition. And that subjective human ego and competition, that is on top of the suffering and on top of the time. And we're kind of like, we could be like self torturing ourselves within the ego and the competition without us even knowing, because the competition is false, and the competition could be approached detrimentally and toxic like, right? So if the competition is approached with a toxic framework or whatever, and a toxic approach and a toxic intention, then you're in that intermeshing of some type of subjective toxic field and energy. And now you are in that subjective competition, and you're trying to suck other people to be in that toxic black hole field wormhole, and you think everyone will conform to your shit when that's not the bigger picture case of the mechanics of the original spiritual matrix, right? Because people are thinking like, some people are in the mindset of like, they will conform to me, and once they conform to me, it's gonna be my way or the highway, and that's the only reality that it is. And my ego and my competition approach is so toxic that I think that's the only reality. I'm literally convinced that that's the only reality, and I'm enhardened to think that's the only reality when that's not the reality. But yet it could be, to some portion it is the reality, because your ability to have people conform to your subjective toxic field, it has received some type of followers throughout time, right? And people are in subjective, archonic challenges of where that is the case. What is the case? The case being where what is the reality? The reality is your individual toxic influence of how you're trying to conform other people to see that your way is the only right way. That's more or less true. Why is it more or less true? Because toxic narcissist leaders have the ability to have other minions conform to their shit. So if other minions conform to their toxic reality, then that's a new community energy field of a reality, but that's not the whole reality, right? So that's the weird paradox of it, right? People are thinking that, you know, one person's reality is the reality when it's not the reality, right? What am I really trying to say here? It's like one person's toxic influence reality, it could be the reality for, like, the masses, because they're conforming to that toxic leader. Generally speaking, generally speaking, someone could be conforming to a toxic leader. So since those individual minions are conforming to a toxic leader, they're going to energetically vote and just be like, yes, this is the truth. This is the reality. Whoever's opposing that is quote unquote fanciful and crazy and out of the reality. But no, that's you conforming to one mass influential being's reality, and you're just conforming to their way of being. And their way of being, if they have some type of energetic influence and power within some type of field and time and realm and range of things, and you go against that, then of course people are going to say you're crazy, because the toxic leader has influence and power for a time being, and that could be diminished within the war of the shadows of the archonic spiritual war. Because the matrix, what is the matrix really? The paradox and the irony of the matrix is it's seeing how double standards are being broken in such a slick, nuanced way. And what is that slick, nuanced way? It's like saying a shadow could take advantage of an individual life form generally, right? No fucking shit. 2015 matrix knowledge, China. 2015 shit, we knew this. So no fucking shit. Someone, and I'm saying it generally, and I'm not just putting China in the fucking in on the spot, on the fucking real planetary fucking Earth game, right? Because the planetary Earth game is beyond the individual continents, right? And the planetary Earth game is influenced by other particular beings, quote unquote higher entities in different fields of the quote unquote original galaxy, and authentically having that investigation thereof. So stop, pause. And so since 2015 Gnosis, we have had some type of basic inkling of an understanding of a shadow matrix. What am I talking about when I say a shadow matrix? There's a general irony and there's a general paradox of within the shadow matrix, a shadow being has the ability to take advantage of an individual being. No fucking shit. So that's some basic 2015 knowledge, right? So within that, that's the whole dichotomy of the fucking planetary fucking competition, right? What does that mean? It's like, it's saying there's a catch-22 here, right? It's like you can't expect for you to not for something to not happen to you that you're doing. It's buffoonery. How could you expect that? Let me repeat that. You can't expect something not happen to you when you're playing that game. For example, shadow beings, and that's a big context thing, have the ability to take advantage of an individual being. So therefore, within the transitioning of the matrix, however the fuck you want to classify it, however the fuck you want to identify it, within the transition of the matrix field, that variable approach or that integer approach of the variable approach or the integer approach of how even before 2015, in 1915, 1815, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, throughout time, throughout the last 6,000 years to the last 50,000 years, however the fuck you want to, however the fuck you want to gauge and encapsulate the Kali Yuga, right? So within some framework, so with the song of life, just the God's one song, and not to take God out of context, that, but however you want to like gauge and encapsulate Kali Yuga, which is not necessarily a linear approach. It could be something, you know, the time itself could be a shape, right? Original open source, right? So time itself could be an unlinear shape, right? So what does that mean? Time is an unlinear shape. In one context, it can be a dry, like it could be like in one field of Kali Yuga, of just a context of a timeline where there's more suffering or less suffering somehow, and there's a paradox, and somehow there's pros and cons within those challenges. So there's timelines where there's more suffering and less suffering. Kali Yuga, Dwarta Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Sat Yuga, generally speaking, in a new, fresh age context. So within Kali Yuga, it could be an unlinear shape, right? Why do I say it's an unlinear shape? Because at one context, in one part of the shape, wherever you're subjectively at in Kali Yuga, it could be longer for others and it could be shorter for others. So we're all collectively, the planet Earth, beyond the continents of the fucking Earth, we're all here in the time bearing matrix of the Kali Yuga, and this unique Earth's timeline is going through that unique time portal of Kali Yuga. So we're all quote unquote in this together until we're not, because we're subjectively in the collective Kali Yuga, and your soul is having a subjective journey through that Kali Yuga, because some people experience suffering less than others, and some people experience suffering more than others. So subjectively, that collective shape has its own magnitude of density, right? So Kali Yuga could be 5,000 years. It could be 5 years. It could be fucking 50,000 years. It could be whatever the fuck they're saying in their fucking misinterpreted metaphorical Vedic calendars, right? Because you're misinterpreting the metaphor of the Vedic calendars, and I've explained the whole fucking Vedic timeline and calendar system in the underground in ways you can't even believe, and your best Indian scholars can't even fucking perceive and fucking interpret the fucking accuracy of the underground of how I fucking already fucking clarified that shit. They can only replicate because Saturn, Indian souls, and how they in that energetic range, and how they vote for Maya, they're affiliating themselves with the Maya that is just immersed in how there's pros and cons in the Kali Yuga, and how in the Kali Yuga, you know, Saturn is just doing shit in a certain way. And as Saturn is doing, it's not good, not bad, and as he's getting fucking new people in his fucking field parameter penitentiary, metaphysically speaking, he's like, oh yeah, like as Saturn's getting new souls in his fucking prison matrix, simultaneously, he's also not the total ruler, because he's getting advised where the soul should go from wherever direction he's receiving the souls, from the souls that he's getting from the souls he's receiving them from. So he's more or less, and in the bigger background picture, there's a reduction of control, but that's a whole different conversation. But within the past Kali Yuga, he receives the souls, and he gets directions and instructions of where to put those souls, because the other planetary beings are instating and initiating the soul of the karma of where that soul should go, and he's received a lot of souls. He's like, yeah, bring them here, come bring them here. This is Saturn's mindset. He's like, bring them here. Yeah, we got new customers. We got new fucking customers. Where are these gonna go? What part of the Saturn matrix are these gonna go based on the instructions I'm receiving from the other planets and their dignified, balanced field, right? Because the other planets are sending souls to this Saturn mission, and the Saturn mission doesn't necessarily know what the mission of that soul is. He's just receiving those souls, right? So Saturn's mindset, he's like, yeah, where are these motherfucking souls going to go, and how am I going to treat them after I see their standard contract and I can only read the surface level part of the contract because he's so condensed and consolidated and dense and kind of like, you know, cut off to the bigger picture knowledge of where he's just taking directions, and he has a lot of influence from the other planets, right? So it's like within the past Kali Yuga, he was like the main archon, and obviously Saturn and Neptune, they're like two sides to the same pole, right? Within that material field, right? But obviously that could be changing, whatever. But within the past Kali Yuga matrix guard, what was happening? The thing that was happening was Saturn was in the surface level control guard of managing the souls, but he got instructions from the other planets where those souls would go in the paradise of the Kali Yuga or the not paradise of the Kali Yuga. Because obviously there's paradise within the majority field of the suffering somehow, because Saturn appointed those souls to go there based on the other planets, advanced as above, so below, right? So Saturn's mindset in the past was like, oh yeah, we got some new souls. Where are we going to put them? How are we going to treat them? Come here, bring them over here, motherfuckers. That's literally Saturn's mindset. And obviously I get all the new souls here doing their shit. Obviously I get, you know, your confusion of where we come from and the different people's standpoints. Obviously I get all these surface level astrologies kind of just not seeing the depth of it and you know, kind of like wish-washing around the original truth. I get all that shit, and I get their confusion of like where souls come from, and I just get your confusion. My advanced empathy feels your confusion. My advanced empathy feels your subjective discomfort. My advanced empathy feels your subjective like pain even. And my advanced empathy feels your subjective complaints and confusion and discomforts based on like everything, based on like why, you know, just like they're going to ask why. Well, I've been answering why for the last fucking 10 years. I'm going on my 10th year underground of quality professional #1 truth. And if y'all intimidated by the #1 truth, that's why things are the way they are. Because you say you're about the fucking solutions, but you're really not. You're half-assing the motherfucking solutions. So you have no fucking right to bitch in this time anymore. And I wrote down some notes. So I'll do a part 2 because I just want to organize it in a certain way. But I didn't think that was gonna come out. But I might do a part 2 just because I want to like, you know, organize it in a certain way. And I don't want the audio I don't want the episodes of these YouTube videos to be like, you know, just too blocky, right? Just too choppy of just like, here's a glob of some truth. No, I want to see like this video. I was going to intuitively approach the astrology read, but I didn't think that was going to come out, right? I didn't think that was going to come out, but that came out. But even though that came out, I could still continue with this video, and I could do a new video after I do the astrology read. I could pop open, you know, I could do an intuitive tarot read. You know, you could use a book as a fucking tarot. So like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Just 6 times, and then maybe fucking flop it 6 times. So how does the tarot work? It's the energy that you give. It's the energy that you believe. And it's the energy that your karmic surroundings are at and the background guides are at. And those energies pour into the energy. And all of those energies make it so it influences the read for the card to be open for what it is to be, the fucking page to be open to what it is to be. It's based on an advanced matrix simulation. So I'm the first motherfucking person in the background, in the underground, to even explain the essence of how the tarot works. So if I were to do that, none of you tarot readers have shit on me because I'm explaining how the fuck it works in background documents and in present documents. So that's why literally there's no brave spiritual teacher on the planet who could compete with this shit. It's just fucking fuck shit, delusional, fanciful, fucking crybaby, subjective. I fucking hypocritically serve two leaders, right? But you can't step to this intellectual fucking mass, right? There's hypocrisy in different contexts. There's hypocrisy across the board. There's hypocrisy within the paint of deep energetic karma that has resurfaced in your physical body, right? There's hypocrisy all over the fucking place. And within that hypocrisy, we could say we're about, we could say, and sometimes maybe the Matrix will force us to serve two masters, right? Because it's not about doing something, exactly or not exactly. It's not about doing something literally or not literally. No, the Matrix will force us to dance with the dark nuance of life, right? So it's not about serving two masters or not serving two masters. You could or couldn't, right? But it's more healthy and it's more pure to serve, quote unquote, one thing, right? Because if you serve two things, then you're splitting off. But the deep metaphysical hypocrisy based on the Matrix game could make us serve two masters, right? So there's a no choice. There's a hard Matrix force mechanic where we have to serve two masters, whether we realize it or not. And what does that do? That splits us, and we have to solve ourselves and figure out a solution in our way through the problems of the Matrix, right? So somehow the gods or the fates or whatever the fuck you want to call them, and shout out to my underground video from 2 nights ago, they're putting us through problems, whether we like it or not. We're literally having to grow our soul, grow our essence, grow our intellectual mind through problems, whether we like it or not, somehow based on our own weird, deep soul contract with yourself and then God. Because obviously somewhere within the deep sovereignty, you had to have chose this. You've had to have chose, not good, not bad. You wanting to attempt to be separate from God, not good, not bad. You wanting to attempt to be your own God, not good, not bad. And within that is fucking timelines and eons and centuries of soul travel just to get to this fucking point. And this fucking point, there's a stationary fixed game within different miracle transformational energies that could influence and program the stationary fixed game of the Matrix. And then there's the higher gods, which are beyond, the archons, right? And those archons will be influenced by the higher up gods, right? In ways they don't understand because they're receiving influence that they're confused. I'm confused. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Like, oh, I'm in charge one day and then I'm not in charge the other day because I'm explaining the original story, you fuckheads. and my advanced empathy could feel your fucking gag, your discomfort based on oh, what the fuck is this shit? I understand all that shit because you're in your subjective confused challenge. You're in your own subjective challenge of coming out of energetic confusion, energetic bewilderment of reality's life and the hard matrix of reality. It's not just Saturn. It's all of the fates. And Saturn is just the surface level jail keeper from the past thing. So we could have hatred, right? We could point our hatred. We could misdirect our hatred for one being or another based on some other person's immature, childish fucking agenda. And now you have artificially induced hatred. You don't even know why you hate what you hate. You're just a confused fucking kid biting the fucking hand that fucking feeds you. Now you want to fucking suck me up. You want to fucking suck me up, nigga? When I'm fucking giving all these fucking miracles. Fuck that, nigga. I'll come back on a I'll come back on a new astrology read.